I am here today with Skow, my buddy, some kind of wizard with coffee, the Wiz.
Hello.
So excited to be here with you today for today's episode. And we have another exciting thing that happened, which is Jason Gay helped us with an intro song for our show. So this will be at the beginning of all of our shows. And I'm so excited that he was able to work this out for us. We were listening to some of his music and he had a video called State of the World Feeling. And it was just perfect for what we were going to have to introduce all of our different episodes. So I'm very excited to be playing this. And Mr. Wizard, do you have anything to add?
I do. I want to express more gratitude than I can express right now to both Jason and David for the experience that we had. You know, we've been doing this for a whole 3 episodes now, and we started not knowing anything, and we still don't know anything. But I think we're aligned in knowing that we wanted to be able to reach out to the community and to other like-minded individuals and to be a place where we can receive contributions from them of their creativity, their experience, their example, so that we can learn from them, but also be a place where other people that can look to. And it's scary. It still is now. We have so much to learn. And just today has been so beautiful. And I would just like to mention that both of those men referred to me as family.
Right. And the support has been incredible. It's been great. And thank you so much for all the work that you've put in and the music that you contributed to the first episode. And it's just been awesome. I really appreciate everything that you've done.
You're welcome. And thank you.
Shaking Hands with Strangers, episode 2, a leg up from David Leonard. So we have a special guest today. I'm very excited about that. I want to tell a little bit about the story of how I came to know David. So I was just had referenced on my phone a few minutes ago which episode it was of Unintended Consequences that you guys were on with the great Baldini, episode 27, 2020 Vision. So that was quite a while ago now. That was like 7 months ago. So. Yeah, so that was just really cool that you were able to come on and talk and befriend Baldini. And then I sort of edged my way and nuzzled my way into speaking to you because I was just so curious and interested about your story. And also about how you fight for people too, because I think that's really great. So if you haven't caught that episode, David, you are legally blind, also a sky watcher. He mentioned, and I didn't remember this, that you're a musician as well.
I try.
So tell me about the musician part a little bit.
Well, the musician part is really a hobby, and I haven't done a lot of that recently, to be honest. I have to be in the right kind of frame of mind, and I've been probably like a lot of people very distracted over the last sort of year or so. So I don't really pick up a guitar very often, but I've recorded a few songs, and you know, it's something I'd like to do again once I'm feeling it. So yeah, that's not a major part of my life anymore, to be honest.
But you've recorded songs. So were you
songs,
playing guitar, singing keys?
Yeah, playing guitar,
all those
singing.
things.
I'm a songwriter. Yeah, I mean, I've written some songs, and one of my brother-in-laws who had done a master's degree. I can't remember exactly what the degree was now, but it was to do with recording and producing music production. And so he recorded the songs and also played. He's a keen guitarist and bass player as well, so he recorded some of the guitar work on there. Awesome. And I just kind of write songs and then we would record them. So I think there was about 6 songs that I held on to that I was proud of, and the rest of them kind of yeah. But
do you have anything publicly available?
I did have them all up on MySpace, but they closed my account down. So
why would they do that? It's so active.
I don't know, but I can send them to you if you want them.
I would love that personally. Thank you.
We'd love to hear it. We're trying to figure out some songs that we can use for the show and stuff too.
We have a friend.
We had a friend who's going to be writing something for today's episode, which is pretty cool. Jason, and I'm looking forward to that. But the reason that we really had you on was to talk to you because as we try to build our community here, we recognize and realize that you have had quite a bit of success in your area building that community. And I want to hear about that story and maybe some of the things that worked or didn't work and where you guys are at right now.
Well, I can't take credit really for most of that. Basically, about a year ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, as a lot of us were wondering who else was on the same page. You know, we were seeing all these scared people walking around and staying in the houses, and it felt like we were the only ones that knew, you know, it was a load of rubbish, what was going on. Yeah. And then you kind of look around on Facebook and see if anybody else in your hometown is on the same page, and we noticed this group. I live in a little town called Eastbourne, and it's near Brighton on the south coast of the UK, of England. And hey, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, a notification came up on my computer then, that should be fine. Yeah, so we live in quite a small town. It's I don't know what the population size is, but you know, and anyway, this Facebook group came up called the Eastbourne Truth Tribe, and there was a few people in it, and so we joined the group, and over the months, especially towards the end of the summer, we met up with a few people, and there was a handful of us, and now there's something like, well, there's over 400 people in there now. So for this town, that's quite a significant amount of people. So we've met up a few times and got our heads together and trying to figure out how or if we can start waking other people up. But Eastbourne is a very closed-minded kind of place, to be honest. And politically, it's very conservative, which, you know, we're ruled by a conservative government. So there you go. Anyway, later on, there was talk about setting up a cooperative, because we figured that the only way to really try and avoid the tyranny was to take responsibility for ourselves and for each other, you know, to sort of try and organise together in a meaningful way. So we've now established a cooperative, and I'm not quite sure how many members there are at this stage, but it's basically local business owners, health practitioners, there's people sort of doing home education, various different people have joined this cooperative and are continuing to join, and we are sort of renting a space where we can meet, and we meet every week and discuss ways in which we can sort of enrich ourselves and the community, and various other things. It's a growing situation at the moment.
That's really cool. I'm more and more interested in a lot of the homeschooling stuff. I've got to find a way with my child. You know, I haven't sent him to school because I won't let him be in a place where they're forcing him to wear a mask and you know, all these things, right? That we know are happening. And I asked him yesterday, you know, how he felt about it, and he's like, well, it's not really that bad. I don't really mind. I like being with my family. And I'm like, maybe I just get them out of there, Maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've got twins that are at school, and they're pretty much the only ones in their school that don't wear masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do such a good job with the no mask advocating. Both of you are powerhouses in pushing that. And I just love,
We've won some
that.
battles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Speaking of winning battles, I really want you to tell the story of when the policeman came up to harass your innocent group of people hanging out.
Okay, so one of the things that's happened in the UK and all over the world, I think, is this is another growing phenomenon, is stand in the park. And so people in their local communities meet in local parks on a Sunday, and again, it's a way of the sort of like-minded people in the communities getting together and just having a typical, family time in the park. And so there's two actually where I live. So there's two big parks, and there are two groups of people that kind of meet, and I don't know, there's probably about 40 to 50 people that regularly meet every Sunday. And on this, I think it was maybe the third or fourth week that this happened, we went to meet, and there was sort of, games going on, people playing ball games with the kids, and it was just a real fun time, really nice warm day, and we were all sat around on the grass, chatting away, and we were next to a cafe, and a few people had been in the cafe to buy coffees and whatnot, and hadn't been any problems. And then somebody went in, and the owner decided to take issue with the fact he wasn't wearing a mask, and he basically said, well, I don't need to wear a mask. Anyway, the cafe owner called the police, who came over. I think there were four police officers came over, and anyway, the guy who had the issue with the cafe owner, he's known as allegedly Dave, and he has a YouTube channel. His name's Dave Murphy. I think I sent you.
I feel like I've heard about him from, and maybe Crow has mentioned him or something. I've heard about him from somewhere, but
maybe. I mean, he's recently done a flat Earth documentary with Eric Dubay.
Okay. Yeah.
So you might have heard. I think it's called The Level, or The Next Level, or something like that, or On the Level. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But yeah, he lives locally here, which is funny, because I met him a few weeks before that, and I thought, I know, I recognise his voice, I think, and I thought, I've definitely seen you on a video, like a flat Earth video, and then it turned out I had. So
oh wow.
Oh, that's neat.
He also knows a lot about common law, and so anyway, when the police came over, he just started citing Rice versus Connolly, 1966. And I think I sent you the video of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and so the police were questioning him, and all he was saying was Rice versus Connolly, 1966. He was repeating. And in the end, they were kind of talking to each other, scratching their heads, and then the rest of the people, yeah, exactly. The rest of the people, they all started chanting it as well. So there was 50 odd people all chanting Rice versus Connolly, 1966. And in the end, the police had to leave because there was just nothing they could say, really. And the point was, there was a case that was brought to the High Court in the UK in 1966 where, I'm not sure exactly the details, but the police, something had happened, and a guy had been questioned by the police, and he refused to give his name, and he refused to help them with their inquiries, and he was arrested. And the case was there to kind of say, well, actually, he didn't have to, by law, unless he, because he wasn't perverting the course of justice. He didn't lie to them or mislead them. He just didn't want to give his name and address, basically. And he was arrested for that. And the case proved that actually, you might have a moral duty to try and help the police with something, but actually you don't need to, unless you've actually been arrested, you don't need to give them any details at all. And so that was why he was quoting that case to say to the police, basically, I'm not talking to you and I don't need to. So nothing's happened here, nothing to see. And that was supported by the rest of the people there, and it was brilliant.
Yeah,
Really
yeah. They just walked away, right?
They did.
They just walked away. They were
just walked away.
confused. They spent some time talking to each other, and then they were like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we better not entangle with this right now.
Yeah. So they hang around at the park entrance, waiting for some crimes to happen somewhere, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, serve and protect us. Yeah, I had seen a recent. Was it you that had sent me the link about where they were talking about the vaccine passports and trying to, how that's sort of coming in, even though they're saying it's not, or they're working on it, even though
that is very much happening here.
They're saying, oh, no, don't worry about that. We're not doing that, but we're investing a lot of money in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And in the technology of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the government work here. They say they're not going to do something, and then whilst they're saying that, they're involved in making it happen. So that's exactly what they're doing or trying to do, because I mean, my view is that there will be a large proportion of society that will welcome that situation and will partake in it, and then there will be others that will try and step back from it and let people get on with it. And because I don't think, I am kind of a glass half full kind of person generally, but I'm also realistic, and I don't think we can stop these things necessarily from happening, but I think we can opt out of them. So I think, that again, that's the idea of the cooperative, is to opt out from the mainstream as opposed to fight it, because I don't think you can, I don't think you can win necessarily.
Yeah, just as the anti-mask and the people are really getting mad about the masks with kids in schools, they're finally having some debate about it here. People are finally kind of getting mad, but I'm almost to the other end of that point where I'm like, well, the only way to resolve this is to pull out of the school. How do I ever send my kid back in there? How?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm thankful that my two that are still in school are about to leave next week. I mean, obviously they've got to go further into their education somehow, but school really, I mean, I've just realised more and more that school is a place of indoctrination. It's not there to teach much value. I'm not saying all of it is, a lot of what they learn is valuable to a point, in particular because that's the world we live in. So it's useful to know what other people are learning and what their perspective is. But a lot of what they're learning isn't just the education academic side. It's the, you will do as you're told. You will, follow authority, and that seems to be a big part of education these days. At the same time as our kids are exposed to that kind of thing, they're also exposed to the fact that children are not encouraged to answer to their teachers anymore. It's all about, there's so much political correctness and everyone seems to know their rights, so a teacher can't control the class like they used to. And so it's a contradiction in, there's so many contradictions, there's so much confusion going on, and the system itself, if I wish I'd woken up to this stuff years ago. I probably wouldn't have ever sent my kids to school, to be honest, amongst other things. But yeah, the school environment is not a good place now at all.
No, it's really not. And I was surprised to see it firsthand when I came home to work from home, and the boys were home for school. So I was actually paying attention and seeing what they were being told. And I was just, it's one of those things, I guess, that's hiding in plain sight. If I think about it, like, yeah, I knew it was there. I was also more in the system, but I just didn't realize how much propaganda there is to, I'm not going to name names, but some recent political entries here in the US, and they're already getting these fantastic, colorful magazines about President so-and-so's childhood. And it's basically, they're making up the equivalent of George Washington and the cherry tree with these people that I've watched for years and years and years just do horrible, terrible things to the people that they're supposed to be serving. And so to see that actually happening, and then my boys being like, wow, this man's really, really great. And I'm like, hold on, let's step back. There's a video here where he's talking about a certain crime bill that was maybe a little important. Let's see what that is. So it's frustrating. It's also been very enlightening, and I've really realized one thing I learned is I can teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, what they're getting the equivalent from school myself.
And I'll be honest, yeah, part of why I wanted to send them, I want them to be around other children, to learn how to interact with other children, to get all the childhood illnesses so that they build up immunity, and to be able to learn how to be with other kids. And if you're going to tell them they can't touch other kids, they can't interact with other kids, you can't see their face, that's most of why I'm sending them there.
I've said that almost that exactly in a sentence in parent teacher conferences where they'll go through all the test scores and they're like, oh, they're doing great, they're off the charts. And I'm like, I don't really care. How are they doing socially? How are they interacting with others? How are they solving problems? Because that's really what I'm looking for. And now, like you're kind of saying there, if that's not a thing anymore, and I get to spend the time with the boys and do it myself, and then build that community. David, I loved everything you shared about going to the park and all the people. That's exactly where our minds went to. It basically was, let's just go to the park.
Yep.
And
thankfully it's nice enough weather to do that right now. I don't know what we're going to do in the winter, but we've had a few days. So we have another day coming up, right?
Yes.
We're going to do Saturday, the 29th at 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
All right, at Highland Lake Park. So we'll go do that. And we're kind of picking different spots. We don't have a real home base yet. There's lots of parks around here. But yeah, you know, it's been inspiring to see what you guys have built where you are, David, with the smaller community. You know, we have a huge community to pull from. So hopefully we can find some people.
Yeah, well, in the UK, I think there's a massive movement now of people that are doing this, because I mean, there have been really, really very large protests very regularly now here, but the mainstream news just doesn't cover it. I mean, we had something like 800,000 people marching through London a couple of weeks ago, and not one of the news channels picked up on it, even though they stormed the BBC and
right.
It's kind of.
But what would we expect? I mean, to the point,
exactly.
it's a clown show, and it's the biggest virus there is, and we just need to just stop with the media. I'm waiting for this thing to go to commercial, or intermission, literally.
So we see all this stuff because we see it on Telegram. Our friend forwards it to us on Telegram, and then what happens next is they start to threaten Telegram. I've heard that they've taken it off people's phones and things like this without their even approval or knowing.
Apple
right?
have done that, haven't they?
Yeah. So the clampdown's real. They're really trying to shut it down, and I think that's part of why so many more people now like us are saying, okay, well, we have to say something. We have to stand up and say something.
There's a protests that they're never going to get on mainstream, obviously. But when you've got 800,000 people regularly marching through your town, that's got to raise a few eyebrows. People have got to start saying, this isn't right-wing extremist terrorist groups anymore. This is actually just normal people. Lots of them as well. There must be something of value that they've got to say. I mean, we had one here in Eastbourne last weekend. I mean, again, that was a bold move because it's not the kind of place where people normally do that. And about, 150 of us marched through Eastbourne last Saturday and went through the shopping mall and made loads and loads of noise. And
that's awesome.
We got a few people to join in. A lot of people didn't like the fact that we were spoiling their peace and quiet, but you know, I think it is about the more you do these things. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's no point doing this, it's no point doing that, but it depends on what your expectation is. I think, you know, if you expect the you know, loads of people to start, you know, if you expect it to get on mainstream news and then it to affect politics, no, of course it's not going to do that. But if you happen to see these people and ask them what it is they're doing, or even just question the fact that you've just seen all these people walking through your town waving banners and making loads of noise, and then you haven't seen it on your local news, well, then you've got to think, well, why is that? You know, it's just about the people that are directly exposed to it. I think that's the point of doing these marches, for me anyway. But yeah, I mean, again, it's about actual contact with real people. It's great that we can talk over Zoom, for example, and it's great that you can watch YouTube and be a part of a Telegram group, but there's nothing like meeting other people, shaking their hands, giving them a hug,
Yes.
you know, speaking to them. You know, that is the most important thing, you know, because we live with these people. They're going to be the people that support us and that we can support as things progress. Because again, I'm not being pessimistic, I'm being realistic when I say that. You know, I think things are going to get harder, but it's a case of, do you accept this situation or do you take a step back from it? And you know, that's my take on the value of these local groups and these local marches and things. It's just, these are the people I want to hang with from now on. You know, I've lost contact with a lot of friends. I've not exactly fallen out with, but I don't have great relationships with some of my family because we're just on a completely different page. And
yes, we've all experienced this.
Exactly. And the more we try and hang on to those old things and wish these people could see things the way we do, it's just not really going to happen. Unless they come to it themselves, it's not going to happen. So it's okay. So I've lived in this town for 6 years now, and I've made more friends in the last year than I have in those 6 years that I've been here. And these are new people that I hadn't met before, mostly. You know, these are, apart from one or two that of the old people I knew that are on the same page as me, most of them are new to me. And I'm really, really, I feel very, very fortunate for that, because these are people I feel much more aligned with anyway. You know, I don't need to, it's not, I don't mean to be, to sound negative towards the other people, because I do value them still, but I can't connect with them anymore. Not when, you know, when I go to work, most of my colleagues, they're all talking about this virus and the need to have a vaccine and all these things, and I'm just, you know, I can't even have just a normal conversation with them anymore. It's so far from each other. It's sad, but it's, you know,
it's so true. It's so true.
The whole thing just fascinates me, how we're all doing the very best we can, and it's relative to what we know and whatnot. But it's just interesting how different they're. Like, I'm the only one at work that hasn't ran out and gotten it. And even though it's to the point that they know that once you get it, you're going to be so sick the next day that they're giving people free PTO. And so I in a meeting, I kind of asked them, like, well, how is that? Like, yeah, it was the sickest I've ever been.
Yeah.
That seems kind of horrible. And then I made the joke. I was like, well, yeah, you're going to have to go back and get your booster every 3 months. And thinking that they would at least get defensive, or thinking, and they were just like, yeah. And it's just, it baffles me.
Well, they wear their vaccines with pride, like a badge of honor. You know, that's how I've experienced people here. I mean, I'd say most of my colleagues have had the vaccine where I work.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And some of those are young people, younger than me. You know, actually, you know, I know two people in their 20s that have had it. You know, and but they're all like, oh, have you had your jab yet? Have you had your jab? And it's like, well, that's personal.
Right.
Right.
I mean, what I have said is, well, I think I'm going to wait until 2025 when the initial trials have
when the trials
see what happens.
Yeah. What really concerned me is my older son. He's 13 years old, and he had a friend over, a new one that he's known him for a long time. I had never met him, so I kind of wanted to stop and introduce myself. And we were just chatting, and somehow the jab came up. And he goes, yeah, I'm just going to get it so I can go back to normal at 13. And it's so hard for me because they don't see down the line, and their parents aren't teaching them. And it's just that I he's not my son, so I didn't want to push it too hard, but I kind of asked. I was like, well, do you know what it is or what it does? And he's like, yeah, it just makes it so I can go back to the store or whatever. I was like, well, you can never take that out. And he's like, what does it matter? They wouldn't give it to everybody if it was a problem.
Yeah.
Which, and then I had to drop it. He's not my son, whatnot, but definitely had some conversations with mine after. It really concerns me with where we're at and where we're going, and just the mindset of that, like, yeah, stick it in me, whatever. It's like, but no.
I think it's this trust, isn't it, in authority and the herd mentality. Well, if everyone else is doing it, it must be okay. I think that's what where most people are coming from, and everyone's got a reason why. Sorry, I'm just trying to read a notification that came up.
Oh.
Everyone's trying to find the reason, a reason to go back to normal. Well, I want to go on holiday, or I want to do this, or I want to do that.
Oh yeah,
I want to go and have a drink in a pub with my friends. It's kind of, that's a good enough reason to take an experimental health treatment when you're perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong with you.
Well, that's sort of the idea that's been offered, right? You do the thing and then you get all the things back. We took them all away, and now you can have it back if you take this, right? On that note, I think we're going to take a break, right? So let's see, we're gonna break back in here, and I think the best thing would be to go down our clampdown rating. This is a new thing that I want to start doing with all the guests, and just ask you, what is your, well, we know where you are, you're in Eastbourne, right? And then what is your access to essentials right now? Are you able to get everything that you normally would get?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, again, there has been a lot of, you know, mask mandates and things like that. So if you go into a shop or you know, anything like that, they want you to wear a mask. But right from the beginning, we just opted out of that. So none of us have ever worn a mask in this house. Apart from practical reasons, like, you know, when you're cleaning the chickens out or
Absolutely.
something like
Yeah.
that, you know. But you know, to go in a shop, I mean, I get a train every day to work. I've been asked twice by the police where my mask is, and I just said I'm exempt, and that's it. They're like, okay, sorry to bother you. In fact, it's really weird. I know it's slightly off topic from what you just asked me, but because I'm, like you said at the beginning of the show, I'm legally blind. So in this country, they call that registered blind. I just call it visually challenged because, you know, that's the way I am. So I've always been used to being a bit of the odd one out. You know, I use a white cane. I've had a guide dog, so I tend to draw a fair amount of attention to myself because of that. And I've always felt a bit on the outside of things. I remember listening to your show last week, and you were saying, Jenny, about how you always felt a bit on the outside of things growing up, and I've always felt like that too. So I kind of used to it in a way, being a bit, you know, different, feeling a bit different. But since this current situation and being the only person that I know that doesn't wear a mask outside of my family, pretty much, I seem to, you know, feeling different has turned from being more of a kind of negative, not negative, but you know, feeling a bit vulnerable in that situation to feeling really empowered. Yeah. And so I've actually got a lot of attention since not wearing a mask. You know, like when I go to commute to work, people literally can't do enough for me. It's so strange, honestly. I said to a friend of mine, you just wait until we get into the station. I said, it's like I'm a celebrity. Everyone will start coming over and asking how I am. And he's like, no. And anyway, we walked into the station, literally, people, there was a guy, like a train guard, got off the train to come and say hello to me because he'd seen me in the morning on a different train. You know, the people working there come over and ask me if I need help. That's never happened before. And it really does feel it's because I'm not wearing a mask.
It's like a real person. Whoa.
Yeah, I was going to say they're
exactly.
seeing you as a person.
Exactly. So before, they'd see me as this blind guy, which most people actually try and ignore, you know. Whereas now it's kind of like, it feels like no one can really challenge me about not wearing a mask because I've got a white stick, and everyone's so confused about political correctness and we mustn't say that because it could be seen as a hate crime, and you know, so rather than challenge me about the mask, they want to speak to me. It's just so strange, really interesting.
I would love to see their faces as they try to like decide if they're going to be coming against you or trying to help you. Like, oh, it's conflicting.
Yeah. I've had some really good conversations with people, you know, and I'm thinking that never would have happened before.
I think both of you, Skow and David, have this sort of light-hearted airiness about your personalities, where you just sort of having a little extra power when you deal with those social situations. You know, it's kind of like Baldini talked about how he had in the beginning, at least, success with going in without masks because he would just be very, well, I just, you know, not going to do it, you know, and not like I want to argue or I want to get mad or, you know, come at me, you know. It's more of well, this is what's happening, you know, this is what's happening. And, you know, I think too, if you want me to leave, I'll leave, you know. That's more, I will try to find ways not to support that business if I can.
The way I look at it is the people that there are people that they know that they don't need to wear the mask, but when they get challenged, they go in not necessarily aggressively, but they go in with a kind of, no, I'm not wearing it, you know, and people then react to that, and then it creates a drama when there didn't need to be one. Whereas I'm just normal. I just don't care.
I've seen the
No,
aggressive
yeah.
approach too, and I think some people enjoy it. They're like,
Totally.
you know, they get a little bit of a thrill out of being like, you know, well, I'm going to show you, you know.
Exactly. And it's understandable. People are naturally very angry at the moment,
Mhm.
and you know, what's happening at the moment is just the unveiling. You know, this has always been here. This is nothing new. What's happening now? It's just I was going to say the mask has come off.
Yes.
It has for some of us. You know, it's just now obvious.
Yeah.
You know, the elephant was in the room before. Now it's, you know, everyone can see.
I have so much fun talking to you. I forget that we're on a path here. Number two, we're only on number two. Our local businesses seeing restrictions that harm them, hours, capacity restrictions, or, you know, as their tables that they put tape across and say you can't be on this table because it's too close to that table. And
okay, so if you go into a gents toilet, you and you have urinals, every other urinal is taped up so you can't use it. You've got these stickers all over the floor where you've got to keep your distance. So the
you just say, I can't see those stickers.
I've always, there you go.
Exactly. And it is quite fun walking the wrong way around a shop. You know, it is quite fun doing that, and then seeing everybody jump out of your way. Like I've had people literally run into the road to get away from me. Whereas and this is interesting as well. I mean, normally, even though I might have a cane, a white stick to help me get around, people are so busy looking at their phones, they just walk straight into me anyway. But now it's great because I'll be walking along and they're, I don't even see people avoiding me now, you know. They don't get close enough. People literally go into the road, they cross over, they go walk into traffic, you know, it's crazy. But the doctor surgery I went to the other day, you can't go in there. You have to ring on the door. They open the door with their gas masks on. I mean, the lady, bless her, she had like a mask and a visor to come and ask me what I wanted, and I was like, well, I need you to fill out a form for me because I can't see it, and she was really scared to do it. But you know, it's so there are restrictions in terms of accessing, you know, that kind of thing. That you know, shops aren't open; they're opening later and closing earlier than they normally do. And you know, you can only have a certain amount of people in a shop at one time. So when we went on a big march in Brighton about 2 weeks ago, and there was probably a couple of thousand people, and we were all marching through the main streets, and there was about 200 people queuing outside of Primark, socially distanced and wearing masks. And it's like,
wait, what's Primark? Is that just a regular store?
Like it's just like it's just like cheap clothing, you know. So it's like budget clothing, and it seems to be, you know, that's it. It's just really interesting to see where people's priorities are. Not that I'm judging them for it, to be honest.
Right.
But it's just an interesting contrast to see.
It kind of goes really well into question 3 of the prevalence of masks and the policy / enforcement of them. I don't know, but, you know, we've seen a very, we'll talk about it a little later. We've seen a big lifting of a lot of people wearing masks here, but there, if you go into a store now, is there any idea that vaccinated people can go in without a mask or anything like that?
No. Basically, what they're saying here is what they were saying is if you want to go back to normal, you've got to have your vaccine. So loads of people have had a vaccine. Now they're saying, no, you've still got to wear a mask. You've still got a distance. You've still got to do all of these things. And we're still going to probably lock you down again as well, because now they're saying it's the lockdowns that work, not the vaccine.
Oh gosh.
I mean, there's so much confusing messages for people, and
that's scary, isn't it?
It's amazing the weapons and tools.
Yeah.
Because they've got a whole new tool bag that they've trained so many people that they're like, oh, we're whipping out lockdowns. I noticed that we had more riots after a verdict in a court case, and it was just, so interesting to me to see how quick it was. I just got a notification on my phone. My boys got it too, and it's like curfew, lockdown, don't leave your house. You'll get,
Yep.
and we're 30 miles from there. But it's just
that night Bill had to find pants because he was going on a business trip the next day, and we had to drive to Albertville, like super far away, and they were shutting down the stores there, and we were literally like driving around trying to find the last store that was open.
Yeah, and as soon as I got that, for me, that notification, I got it, you locked down, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going on a super long walk all over the city,
So
And, yeah.
David, are they doing that with you? Are they putting it on your phone? Are you getting messages on your phones?
Not because the way they do lockdowns here, I think, is different. So what it was the national lockdown, so everywhere was locked down to begin with.
Okay.
And then they introduced a traffic light, what they called a traffic light system. So where there were lots of cases, that would be red. That was locked down completely. Then there was amber, where there were a few less cases or whatever. And then then we went into a second lockdown. So they told people before Christmas, yeah, you can have your Christmas few days. We'll let you all do. We'll let you all see your families and everything. And then the day, like literally a couple of days running up to Christmas, they said, no, you're going to go on another lockdown now. And then after that, it was a case of you had this another system, which was level 1, level 2, level 3 type thing. And so rather than doing a national lockdown, they started just locking down areas. Then they went back to another national lockdown. So we've had 3 of them now, and that we're supposed to be on a roadmap out of it at the moment.
Do you think people that even were following along and were scared and whatever are literally saying, we had plans to go see family, but I guess we'll have to cancel those, and they canceled them?
Yeah, a lot of people.
For real?
Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
I feel like in America that wouldn't fly quite as easily.
It's I mean, I think it's to do with the level of programming that has been going on for generations leading up to this.
I feel like you guys are following orders a little closer over there. We're a little bit more like,
probably,
because I feel like America went, what, you're gonna jab me and I still can't go and have fun? No way. Like, and then everybody was like, oh, I guess we have to then it became this problem, right? Then it becomes the problem of how do I know you've been vaccinated, right?
Well, that's coming. That's coming. I mean, they are saying that we're going to have vaccine passports. That's what they're saying now.
Makes me shudder.
Yeah, and whilst they were saying they wouldn't do it, they were signing deals with big tech companies, preparing for it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Okay.
That's how they roll. That's how they roll.
Along with this level, number 4 is impact to schools. So if they're doing this nationwide or even in areas, is there any idea that this is what really scared me, that the school can take your child and take them somewhere else without telling you where they're taking your child?
What they've done is under so here we had I don't know what it's like in the US, but we had the Coronavirus Act, which was emergency legislation, and that's what they introduced last March, and they've been adding to that legislation ever since. And they've extended it. So
isn't that nice for them?
And in this act, which is basically an emergency health act, they have passed legislation now which says they can vaccinate your children without any child over 12 years old can consent without a parent's consent. So even if we say no, if the child says yes, then the child gets the priority consent there. And they I mean, how they put it into force and how they do it, I don't know, because again, we know that these are all offers. These aren't lawful. They're not, people hear the word mandate and think they have to do it. But we know well enough that that's just an offer. It only means something if you consent to it, if you agree to it. And so they've, for example, they did the mask mandates in schools, and we wrote to the school and said, our kids won't be wearing a mask. That was that. Then there was the PCR tests at schools, which was mandatory. So 3 times a week, kids at school have to have a PCR test.
3 times a week.
Oh my
Can
God.
you imagine?
Yeah, but we said to the school that's not happening, so they didn't have to have it. And now what they're saying is when September comes, when the kids go back to school, kids over 12 have to have a vaccine. That's what they're saying. But unless you don't give them consent. So I think it just comes down to that there are, going back to what you were saying earlier as well about people kind of saying, actually, just because you said I can't do this, I'm not going to do it, kind of thing. The more the government are legislating, the more people are going on rallies, speaking out, that kind of thing. We've got a lot more whistleblowers now. Again, they're getting censored a lot, but there are loads of them. There are lots of doctors, lots of nurses, and lots of alternative news networks, and obviously the internet probably reaches many more people than the mainstream news on TV. So there are more and more people, I think, that are fed up and questioning things, but whatever level of understanding they've got is an individual thing. And I guess the UK is a smaller place than the United States, so it's like comparing the US to Europe. It's the UK is quite. I mean, we've obviously got England, Scotland, Ireland, and Northern Ireland. So that's the UK, and they've each got their own thing going. So Scotland and Wales have a lot harsher rules than we do. But they alternate. So Wales will get locked down, and then when they come out of their lockdown, we go into a lockdown, that seems to be how they're doing it. And it just keeps the confusion going. It keeps the confusion and the fear going.
I've seen a guy from Scotland do some protests, and he's kind of a common law kind of guy. I can't remember his name.
Robert.
Robert. Yeah, I was just looking it up.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching his stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while. I haven't seen him on YouTube. I think he might have had his channel deleted. But
I have to listen very closely to understand what he's saying. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering when they're going to stop.
I think Crow wanted to interview him, but he couldn't understand him.
It's a little rough, but yeah, I love that. That's kind of question 5 is like pressure to accept certain certain products. I put products in here. I realize that we've said vaccine now for the last however long.
Sorry.
No,
it's
and
okay.
I just made the decision. I'm going to speak as I want to, and if I get shut down, I will move somewhere else, and I'll keep speaking because I'm not going to do that.
No.
I've seen the game played, and you can't play. You can only play it long enough, and it just becomes silly. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the recent Rose poppycock report where she put, it was so hilarious. It was so hilarious. She big banners. She was like, this is medical advice. This is legal advice. She tried to say everything possible because she's finding that other channels are getting shut down and she's not. So she's like, what is it,
Right.
that I'm not saying? So I'll just say all this stuff. And she's like, I feel like I didn't go far enough,
I need to see that. I haven't watched that.
Yeah, it was fun to comment on that. Yeah, during that.
That was a fun one. So I know for us, I'm kind of transitioned to some of the things that we've seen here recently, because I went on vacation and it was so stringent with the masks that I was having kind of like mental breakdowns about it. Then I went on vacation. I went through North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. And all of those places, I didn't wear a mask anywhere. Not in any of them. And, my mask is a scarf that you can basically breathe through. So it was just really nice to not wear it. And I came back and I'm like, God, I'm not going to wear it no matter what. I was reinvigorated and came back, and now people are going out without wearing them, right? Because we've all been told, if you have had your jab, you can ditch the mask, right? which is nonsense. I saw a really good post. I shared it. It was if the vaccines do not help contain the spread, then how will a vaccine passport help contain the spread? Right? We've all been duped here. But the governor changed his orders to that. And so I'm going into Target and I hear somebody say, "Oh, thanks for getting your vaccine, sir." And he's like, "Oh yeah, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. Because if he says that to me, I'm not going to say, yes, I took it. I won't lie,
Yeah, and I would have walked towards that.
I know you would.
And I would have had a conversation about it and asked him, what was your last year like?
You're okay. So that leads into also some odd things that you've seen. Now you're in IT, Scott.
Mhm.
But you got a weird text the other day.
I did. And it's funny because when I think about it, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, it's not even worth talking about. And then other times like, it's really weird. And I found that within this whole situation, when I follow that's weird feelings, it generally kind of leads somewhere. So yeah, it's yesterday or the day before, I don't even remember. Just sitting here and I got a text message from one of the local clinics confirming my appointment with Dr. So-and-so that I've never met, that should not have any access to any of my information or anything. So there was a link to the clinic site. So I clicked on it with the contact information, and a big banner across the top was letting me know that youth vaccination is now available. And I was like, that's really weird. And I was like, I wonder if my wife went around my back and set up an appointment for them, like something crazy, you're like, what's going on? So I hit her up and she's like, nope, I wouldn't do that. So I just called them. And I was like, hey, I got this confirmation for my appointment. She asked, well, what's your phone number? I tell her. What's your name? I tell her. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm not showing that nope, you don't have an appointment. I was like, well, you sent me a text message saying I did. First of all, how do you have my information at all? How do you know who I am? You shouldn't have anything. And then she started getting kind of nervous and kept putting me on hold, and she apologized. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's computers. And I'm in IT, I get it. And she's like, oh yeah, it looks like we're having a problem with our system. It's just sending out notifications to people about appointments that are wrong. And I'm like, well, how did you even have my information? And she's like, I don't know, just delete the message, don't forward it, don't respond, don't do anything. Don't worry, you don't have an appointment. And I tell people that, and they're like, yeah, whatever, it was a mistake. But I think of things like that system that sent out that notification is tied to a database that has entries and information in it. Somehow it had mine and it shouldn't be there. It's just a weird, that was a weird glitch, a weird concern that makes you kind of wonder. I mean, we know our data's handled horribly and our medical information. So yeah, that was a little odd, and it felt off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just go into, that must have been 2 days ago, because it was the next
Mm-hmm.
morning, yesterday morning. Get up, the boys are getting ready for school, which for one of them's home because he's been on quarantine for 3 weeks because he walked by somebody with the sniffles. And which there's another one because they were able to identify only certain individuals of his friends. So it wasn't like it was an entire class. It wasn't a half of a class. It wasn't like a section of a class. So I'm really concerned. I'm actually considering going and being like, I need you to show me the data that you collected on my son that said that he's not going to school. That's kind of an aside, but got a phone call from my wife. I generally try not to check my phone too much, kind of unplugging a little bit. So I'd missed a phone call from the school. And she's like, hey, yeah, don't send the boys outside. There's a threat at the school or at a school. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, which one? She's like, I don't know. Any of the ones in the city. I looked, I think we have 10. We're in a decent sized city. And I was like, oh, okay, threat. And then it was just, once again, it was just that off feeling. And I was like, we're gonna have a bomb threat at our high school. I'm like, that's what it is. And I ended up kind of walking around. We live really, really close to the elementary school and the high school. So I just walked down to the elementary school and it was all empty except for police cars sitting out front. so that felt odd. And I made a video on that and posted it on Facebook. I posted a couple frustrated videos yesterday.
Yes, we could tell you were.
I was very, very,
Yeah.
it was a rough week in general, but I've kind of had enough
Mhm.
on some things.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, I was just, it was like, yeah, it's your school, you know, it's the high school. No one was saying anything about it. So I went down there and sure enough, I look and cop cars, and I think they just wrapped up with the canines and the news crew was there.
Mhm.
And I also knew that it was bullshit. You know, I just felt it. I was like, this is not going to be anything. It feels, I don't want to be like too conspiratorial. I'm not saying this is what's happening, but it's very convenient that we're having a big event with Mask Off Monday,
Mhm.
where they're having protests by the children are going to go to school with no masks, and they're organizing a whole bunch of stuff, and they're trying to talk to all the school boards, and people are doing a lot of work. Guess who's not concerned about masks at all anymore, because now we have this whole bomb threat situation, which, I mean, look at it whenever, however you want, but it feels very convenient. We've had other things that have happened through this. And yeah, it frustrated me a lot. And also knowing them, like, someone sent an email. It literally was someone sent an email in the mainstream story that they're giving us. We received an email that said, we're going to do something. And it just turned into this huge media issue. And now it's going to tie into all the other kind of events, you know, that we all saw coming up. We found these increase in mass casualty events emails and articles or whatever months ago predicting all of this. So yeah, that was kind of part of my weird week, and other than just fighting the Matrix in general. It was interesting. It was weird.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the Mask Off Monday. I guess there's kids of different ages, or sons and daughters of different ages. So it kind of puts them in a spot, right?
It
But
does,
if
but
they're comfortable doing it, you want to say, yeah, I'm supporting you doing that, but I would hesitate. I guess, my oldest is a little bit sensitive and very, very worried about doing the right thing and following the rules and doing, and we went to Culver's the other day, and the line was long in the drive-through, and we've been going through the drive-through because not putting a mask on my kids, not dealing with it, and I'm like, I'm just going to go in, and I said, come in. And he was scared to go in with me without a mask on. And I said, no, trust me, you can come in. I will, if there's a problem, we can leave, but we're going to go. And he wasn't okay until he saw someone else do it. And I'm that way too. That, like, one of the first times that we got together and went into a restaurant without, I'm like, I'm freaking out because it's nobody else is. And then as soon as I see one person, I'm like, all right, we got it. It's okay. I just need one other person to help me.
Yeah.
But you can be that person, can't you, as well?
Yeah.
That's yeah. Sorry, I just want to, Jenny, something you brought up really made me think of, like, why I am so, happily aggressive about the situation, and why I approach it. Now that I think about it, other than it's just probably my nature, is because I was going into these places with my boys without masks. Way back before the snow. We were buying snow shovels, so it's before the snow fell. It's been a while. And when we first went in, they were kind of nervous. And when we did get approached, or when people would come up to me, I wanted to be an example to them, to show them, look, we don't need to be fearful, and we don't need to fight. And so I just would approach everything, or these individuals, just authentically, and be like, look, I'm going to find a reason to make this a happy thing. So when they come up and they're looking like aggressive, I might be like, hey, I love your hair, or wow, that's a really cool shirt, or just try and connect with someone. And the trick is, it has to be real, though. It has to be authentic. You can't bullshit your way through it. You can't be like, I like your hair, when it looks all crazy, but just find a way to authentically connect. And it's funny to see how many people would, they almost see that as an excuse, because it's like they come up like they got a virtue signal sometimes, or like, it's my job to do this, but I don't necessarily want to. and then as soon as they have a reason to connect with you as a person, I mean, I've had people that have looked like they were going to come up and yell at me, and by the time we leave, I'm shaking their hand. You know? Oh, I think can you guys hear a bell?
No,
Okay, I think I heard a bell.
I
I'm
think
the
we
host.
should
We
wrap
must
it
be
up
running
either
out
way.
of time. Yeah, we're running out of time.
And David, did you have anything else to input?
Well, I guess these situations, they're all there to create divide, aren't they? They're there to put
Yes,
pressure.
you're so good at that.
You know that, and you know the kids doing the off mask Monday or whatever. You know, again, that's putting them in a difficult position. Whereas it should be us as adults taking that away from them and stepping up. But yeah, all of these things, you know, what you were talking about earlier about the schools getting shut down, again, it's to increase the fear, it's to cause all of this kind of, you know, all of this bad feeling, put doubt in people's mind, confusion in people's minds, fear in people's minds. So you have people that have no idea that there's anything nefarious going on, and they're confused, and then you have people in the kind of truth community that are equally concerned and confused about other things, and there's all these controlled opposition stories going around, and it's there to capture your mind. All of these things are there to capture your mind and distract you from focusing on the real important things, like what we're doing here, trying to increase community connections, those kind of things. And I think, you know, they're really, in my view, and I'm not minimizing anybody else's concerns or fears, but there is nothing to fear if you know yourself, if you know that you have been given your life by God. Now, whatever everyone's interpretation of that is, I'm not here to tell anybody what that should be. But if you know that you've been given your life by God, we're all equally given that, you know, the divine spark, as Crow calls it. And if your intention is good and you mean no harm, then you really do have nothing to fear. The world will create lots of different versions of why you should be afraid, and they're offering it to us, you know, and a lot of people are taking the offer. But you know, if I had to say anything about it, it is like, really try and get to know yourself and try and think beyond the kind of worldly aspect of what's going on, because it's a trap. It's to trap your mind, and it's to trap your spirit. And
once
we
you start seeing it that way, it's pretty clear to see. You start seeing all these things that way.
Yeah. And you know, one thing I would say positively about the education system, you know, what's come off the back of that realization and having that dilemma, sending my children to school, is that we've had some really useful conversations off the back of it.
Yeah.
You know, even this morning I was talking to one of my boys. We were listening because I'm doing some training about common law and equity law, and we were listening to a podcast. The guy that's doing it, he was on the podcast talking about it, and I can plug it if you like. You know Mark Devlin.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
well, he was on his latest Good Vibrations podcast. So the People's Lawyer UK, he goes around educating people about the legal system and what it really means, and how you can start, you know, using it to your advantage, I guess. But he was doing a podcast, and it provoked a really interesting conversation. We were talking about, because one of his main things is about, you know, the damage that school can do to your children. And so we then had a really interesting conversation about school, about education, and about the limitations of it, the value of meeting and being around other children. But you don't necessarily, and you know, it's important to know what they're teaching you at school, but it's also important to come away from that and question it, and settle on your own version of what you think that means. So you know, again, it's all of these situations create opportunities and choices, and I guess it's up to us to make the right choices.
Well,
Here,
I
here.
super appreciate your friendship mostly, but
Same.
you are such an inspiration as well. I'm so happy to know you. And I'm
thank you.
wondering if you want to leave a way for people to contact you if they would like.
Well, I was on Facebook, but I've kind of come off that for now, just because after I did that podcast with Baldini,
Yes.
my employer decided to create a social media policy. So I have to be really careful
Yeah.
with that. And also on that show, I was talking about how I tackled the whole mask mandate
Yes.
at work thing. So it got a bit difficult. I also offended a few family members as well.
That'll happen.
Well, you know, my parents, who are both in their 80s, they have been totally caught up in the fear and the everything else, and they're, you know, I've been posting things publicly on Facebook because I really don't mind what people think of me. It's not about me. You know, I just wanted to kind of put some truth out there. But one of their friends had seen something I put on there. I don't even know what it was, and it caused a lot of problems. So in the end, I decided I was going to come off just to minimize the stress for them, really, because you know, I respect them enough to, even though we disagree on a lot of things, I still, you know, don't want to unnecessarily cause them stress, and also my family, and you know. But so in terms of Facebook, I'm on Messenger still, so
Yes.
I'm David Leonard on there, and you know, I guess I can give my email address out, and I'm happy for anyone to contact me if they wanted to.
All right, that'd be great.
I'm on Telegram as well. Yeah, so I can give my email address, which I'm just thinking of the best one to give. So I've got a Gmail one I'm happy to give out, which is gdays.best@gmail.com.
Excellent.
So that's my email address.
We'll have to get good too at putting things in the show notes. We'll put that in the show notes, as well as our emails. And if anybody's, you know, listening, hopefully from the Minnesota area, you know, we do have a Saturday meetup on the 29th, Highland Park, 10145 Bush Lake Road. And if you do not give Facebook your location and you put that address in, it puts you lost at sea, in the middle of the sea. So I found that out. That was odd.
The irony.
Yes. I was like, oh no, they put me lost at sea.
Little poke in the eye.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, David, I want to thank you for this time and for the opportunity to meet you. This has been really great. It's really nice to speak with you.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome, and same here as well. And hopefully we can keep in touch as well. So obviously I'm in touch with Jenny, but it'd be really nice to keep in touch with you as well.
Yeah, I would love that. And I would, even if it would be possible, maybe if our groups could connect somehow, I think it would be really kind of, I mean, ours is really small. It's 2 people, but I think just knowing about each other is just knowing, hey, you're over there fighting the good fight and we're doing it here. I don't know about you, but I have days where especially when Jenny goes on vacation for a week and I start to think I'm crazy and I need to check in and like, hey, because it's like I'm sacrificing so much and have so much turmoil that if I were to just step in line, I'd have a lot less conflict in my life. But this feels, when I was young, I used to feel like I was the outsider because I was choosing to do things that were wrong, you know, go against whatever, drink when I wasn't supposed to or whatnot. Now I'm the outsider, but it's because I honestly feel like I'm making the right choice for me that's in line with that divine spark from the creator. This isn't a joke to me, you know, but it gets really difficult because especially when it's those people that were supposed to be that moral guidance when you were growing up and that had, you know, laid out what the expectations were. Now they're doing that. And so it's very weird. So it's really great to be able to see others and to know that you're out there doing it inspires me. And thank you.
Well, the feeling's mutual, to be honest. And, you know, doing the right thing is often the hardest thing to do. You know,
Yeah.
we've got
Love
to
that.
do what feels. It is though. I mean, you don't make friends. You don't make friends by doing the right
I
thing.
noticed.
So
Not in volume, no.
You know, it would. I mean, I'm really fortunate that my direct immediate family are on the same kind of page, and you know, but you know, it a lot of conflicts, not a conflict actually. It was a difficult path because obviously I kind of had some kind of awakening a few years ago, and I was very gently trying to get them to see how the world really was working, and so we had some difficult times with that. But when the C word virus came about, it was the moment that they all came online with me, really. And so I've been really fortunate that we can talk freely in our family. We have other family members that we can talk freely with. One of them who hopefully you're going to meet as well, Jenny, and you as well, my brother-in-law who's in Minnesota. So you know, it's a small world, really, isn't it?
Fantastic.
So many people don't have anyone to talk to. They don't. Literally, Facebook is all they have.
Yeah. Hey, what's he doing Saturday?
I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
I did tell him that I was going to be on here, so hopefully he's going to give it a listen. So yeah, but yeah, they're back in Minnesota now, so they'll probably have some stories to tell you about, because I know they've been in Florida for a while. So yeah, but yeah, it is so important. I guess that knowing people are on the similar page, doing the right thing, even though you know it's hard. I mean, it'd be a lot easier just to put on a mask, do the things that you've been told to do. It would cause a lot less conflict for you, but the conflict is in the inner one. That's the biggest conflict, and I can't do those things, because the inner conflict for me is I've got to answer to God at the end of the day. It's not about answering to my employer or my friends or my family. It's about, you know, ultimately the you know, doing the right thing is about doing the right thing by God, and that's where I stand on it.
Torchlight in the dark.